Today I had a idea about a recording that I'm going to put off for maybe next week. And it was around where we hold shadows within our human design. And I would use my human design chart as an example for you. So that's to come. This has been quite a week for myself and my family. And so we have 3 dogs, and one of the dogs, his name's Dakota, and we got him from a shelter. And actually all 3 dogs are rescue dogs. And this reasoning of why I'm telling you this, it goes along with grief and trauma and loss. So bear with me. And so when we got Dakota, I got him because I was ready to adopt another dog. I had lost a dog about a year prior to that who just, I loved him so much. And he, left us far too early. He had bone cancer and he was very young, and his name was Taz, and I just loved him to pieces. And I got to the point where I was ready to open my heart to another dog. And I love animals. I love dogs. And they're so giving. They're so loving. They give us so much, and they love to be loved, right? They just love you, and they have such a big heart. And when I watch them, it just always amazes me just how open and loving and honest and true they are. And there's times, kind of going around the bend here. There's times when I think to myself, I wish people could be that open and honest and true and just show how they truly love and feel to each other instead of hurtful words and actions. So that's a little bit about that. Anyway, so it was time. I was ready for another dog, and I started looking around, and I wanted a shepherd. I love shepherds. It was not the first shepherd I had. And I came across Dakota on our Humane Society website, and I was looking for an older dog because a lot of times older dogs, they're not as easy to place, and yet they are just as loving as you could ask. And a lot of times they have suffered traumas and losses of their owners, or owners, I guess, more than anything, or their home. They could have had to be, removed from the home because the owners, for some reason, they couldn't keep the dog. They had to move, and where they were moving, they couldn't have a pet. So, and my husband used to volunteer at the Humane Society down in Jasper, Indiana, and that's where we were for about 10 or 11 years. So I got to see a lot of the dogs and hear about their stories, which so many of them just absolutely broke my heart. And I just take them all if I could, every single one of them. But like I said, it was time. I wanted to adopt another dog, a large dog. And I came across Dakota's picture on the website, and I thought he was about, I don't know, 3 or 4 years old, somewhere in that neighborhood. And so we went to go visit him, and, I considered it. I spent time with him. I sat with him. He was so scared. Anyway, we took him home, and previous to us, he had been abused. And I would say also he had been left on his own out in the wild just from watching him walk. You know how wild dogs, coyotes, wolves, they have a lope to them. He had that lope. It was not a domestic walk, a domestic dog walk. It was more of being out in the wild for a long period of time. And we took him to the vet, make sure, he was okay. Did we have any concerns or anything like that? And the vet told me he was only 11 months old. And Dakota, I don't know his backstory. I can take a wild guess based on seeing healed cracked ribs when he would turn to the side, or the scar on his nose from what looked to be a pretty significant fight, which is amazing because he's probably one of the most docile dogs I've ever met in my life. And he was scared to death of people. I mean, so was that from being on his own out in the wild? Was he abused? Was it both? I don't know. I don't know his backstory. And a lot of times I don't want to know their backstory because it just hurts my heart that someone would do that to an animal. Anyway, so we brought him home, and he was a challenge. He was a special needs dog. And over the years, we've had him about, I want to say about 10 or 11 years. He has taught us so much. He came into our lives for a reason. His special needs were met by us, and he felt loved. He felt protected. He felt safe. And when he's out on a walk and other people always try and pet this poor guy, he hides. He hides behind me. He hides behind my husband. He hides. Don't look at me. Don't touch me. Please, please don't touch me. But he let us touch him. He let us pet him. It took a year to be able to do that, but he had to come to trust us, and we couldn't force it. We had to wait for the right timing. Right timing. Well, yeah, that's always a work in progress, even for people. I say many times, don't rush the healing, don't rush the process. It comes in layers in right timing, and it needs to be patient, patient with yourself, patient with others. So anyway, we had Dakota for a very long time, and he had made leaps and bounds in healing his fears, his traumas. He felt safe. Like I said, he felt safe. He felt loved. He felt protected because he was. But he also had a lot of health issues. So the last 48 hours from this recording, his health took a major turn, and we had to make a decision. And it was a very hard decision, and not one I like to make. But he was suffering. He was truly suffering, and he didn't want to eat. He didn't want to drink. And it was time. It was time. And I talk a lot on this podcast about traumas and wounding and grief and allowing yourself to grieve the loss, whatever that loss may be. And it doesn't necessarily need to be a person or a pet. It could be a home, a job. It could be almost anything that you have an attachment to. And our attachment was with Dakota, both myself and my husband. So, we took him, and the vet took beautiful care of him till the very last breath. And we were with him the whole time. And I know he felt loved. I know he felt safe. And I know he felt protected. And I wouldn't have done it any differently. And it's still really fresh, as you can hear my voice as it cracks and breaks. But there's another piece to this. I think in different cultures, from what I've heard from a very, very good friend of mine, she lives in Italy right now. From her culture, when they lose a family member or a friend, they celebrate that person's life. They celebrate them moving on. They they celebrate passion, the love, the relationship that they had with that person. And a lot of times, in my experience, when I have gone to wakes or funerals, it's very sad, and it is sad to lose someone. Don't get me wrong, or a pet. It really is. And we can kind of get caught in that because the whole room has that same energy, right? And so as I sat this morning and even this afternoon, just really reflecting on, losing him. And I know it was the best decision for him. Like I said, I didn't want him to suffer, and he was suffering. But also in that sadness, there was such a recognition that I saw of love that I had for him, of protecting him, of making him safe all these years. And even after he's gone, yes, it's sad. The house feels different. The energy is different in this house. His presence, I can feel his presence missing. And yet I can also smile because I'm also celebrating his life and what that means for the next step for him. So if you can, consider the celebration of life, if you can, and when you're ready, and to take that step of what is the grief showing you? I know you love that person. I know you miss that person. I know you feel their energy missing from you, but they're still there. They are. I lost my mom when I was very young. I lost my grandmother, my grandfather, my ancestors. And even today, I would love to see them, and I will someday. I will. But even today, I can feel their presence behind me. And when I say these words out loud, each and every time I say these words out loud, I get goosebumps. I can physically feel their presence. And it's the same with Dakota. Physically, he's not here. Energetically, he is here. And he knows we loved him. He knows how much we missed him, how much we treasured him, protected him, and made him safe because he didn't have that when he was younger until we got him. And while my heart is sad, it's also smiling. It's a celebration of life. So, and that's really what I want to hopefully convey here is when we do suffer that grief, that loss of someone leaving us, think about the person and how much they were loved and their life and celebrate that. If you can, celebrate that. Burn a candle, hold a vigil, play the music they love, dance like nobody's watching, and celebrate. Celebrate them. Love them because coming back. They're coming back. How, when, I don't know. We don't know, but we will meet again. And I believe in my heart, I will meet Dakota again. He will be different. I was thinking about this and it's like, he could come back as a fish or he could come back and transform the world. You never know what he will come back as. And as I look at this, think back on this, and I think back to all the dogs I have had in my life. And like I said, I love dogs. I absolutely adore them. And I've had some really good ones. Something stuck in my throat and I love them dearly. But how they changed my life, what they showed me, what they taught me, what unfolded in that relationship that I had with each and every one of them. Dakota, he was a special needs dog through and through. I wouldn't have traded that experience for anything, but it taught me to soften even more, how to lean into him and let him feel my energy and me his, and to be open because he was very open once he got to know us. Because that, like I said, it took almost a year before he would let us touch him. That it took a year before he would really sit in the same room with us. So it was a long journey with him, and I wouldn't have traded any of it. There were times I would get frustrated, but he came for a reason. He taught us a different type of love, a different type of protection, a different type of safety for him. He taught us how to soften into him, even when we would just get a little anxious and frustrated and impatient with him, because let me tell you, Dakota moved at his own pace and there was no rushing him. I'm telling you, no rushing him. I don't care what it was. That teaches you some patience. It also shows you where you're impatient and, maybe you've got some shadow work going on there. And why are you impatient? Because they feel that, right? Your dog, your cat, your pet, your family, your kids, when we get impatient, they feel that. And then their stress goes up. And then they just, they're like, shoot. And they're getting impatient with me. Can we soften into the moment of what person's teaching us to open our hearts even more and soften into that? So yeah, this is a bit of a different one, huh? But this is real time in the moment, grieving, but also celebrating. So much more celebrating. And as time moves, the sadness will come in waves and the celebration will come in waves. The memories will come in waves and the softening will come more and more in waves. So I'm going to leave it there for now. We'll talk soon.